and this is the last class of this certificate course. And today we will begin with this right to vote under the United States constitutions, and thereafter, we'll be discussing this right to vote during the first 30 minutes, and thereafter we will have an online test. The test is of 15 marks. The test comprises both kind of questions. It contains multiple choice questions, MCQs, objective type questions, and subjective, like descriptive answers as well. So you have 8 to 10 questions, those are which are MCQ, which are objective in nature. Furthermore, you have 2 questions that are descriptive in nature, and you are required to answer those questions in there's a word limit in not more than 100 words. So that is about the test. So we'll be sharing you the link with you around 5:40. So before that, we'll be going with a quick recap, like what we have started in our previous lecture, and thereafter we'll be switching to this latest concept, this right to vote under the United States Constitution. So in the previous class, we were talking about this right, equal protection clause. And we say that under the United States Constitution, the first time equal protection comes or equality comes into picture is the 14th Amendment. Right. Before that, in the whole, if you look at the Constitution before 14th Amendment, there is no provision, no explicit provision providing for equality. And in fact, it appears like the Constitution is institutionalizing, is enforcing this institution of slavery. So there are certain provisions that actually institutionalizes, that enforces slavery. So I'm not discussing those provisions. So I am directly going to this 14th Amendment. So 14th Amendment, there we have seen one more concept named as Doctrine of Reverse Incorporation. So for example, incorporation mein humne kya dekha, that entire Bill of Rights that was initially available only against the federal government was applied against local or federal government, local or state government as well. Furthermore, reverse incorporation mein kya hota hai, that equal protection which is only available against local or local or state government is in fact available against federal government as well by virtue of 5th Amendment, that is the due process. So we have discussed this doctrine of reverse incorporation. Further, we talked about the equality, this discrimination part. So we talked about a threefold test to inquire. The first thing, what is the basis of the classification? Second fold, it was what is the level of scrutiny that the court would be using. The third thing we talked about, that after applying the scrutiny, whether the law could be sustained in the eyes of law as constitutional or unconstitutional. So that have been the threefold test that we talked about. That the first thing, what is classification? ये classification क्या है? दूसरा, level of scrutiny क्या है? और तीसरा, level of scrutiny के बाद क्या law constitutional है कि नहीं? So that we talked about a threefold test, and then we tried to understand this with the help of this 2015 judgment, Obergefell judgment of the United States Supreme Court, कि जहाँ पे state laws have actually banned the same-sex marriage. और same-sex marriage पे उसने कहा कि because same-sex marriage actually discriminates on the basis of sexual orientation, the court did not actually delve into what kind of scrutiny it is using, but it held such statutes that ban same-sex marriage as unconstitutional. So this was about the concept of equality. Then we were talking about racial discrimination in our further lecture. Racial discrimination में हमने पहले first type of laws that we were looking into, वो laws जो केवल minorities को burden करते हैं. For example, अगर कोई ऐसा law जो कहता है कि juries में या फिर हम army में या फिर किसी एक institute में हम we will only be taking whites, will be excluding blacks. So such kind of law that only burdens a particular sect or section of the society. So such laws are unconstitutional. Second, we talked about laws that burdens both whites as well as blacks. That means majority and minority as well. For example, interracial marriage, laws that ban interracial marriages. So interracial marriages में अगर ban कर देते हैं, तो a white cannot marry a black cannot marry a white. So this burdens both the communities equally, but such practices have been held as unconstitutional, have been declared as unconstitutional, because somewhere they are based on the premise that one race is superior or inferior to the other. So court have said that why court actually suspects racial discrimination so much, because court says that racial discrimination is a discrimination that is actually based on your immutable differences. Because whether you are white or black, I had no option to choose. It is merely biology, it is inheritance, it is somewhere in my genes. So therefore, the court have been very suspectical of such kind of discrimination. The third thing we talked about was this racial classification. We were talking about how initially the court said the 14th Amendment is not offended by the concept of separate but equal. That means the Jim Crow laws and the practices of segregation in the United States. But from this case of Brown versus Board of Education, the position has been entirely changed. The court said that separate but equal is no more the concept, is no more a res judicata. The court has in fact overruled the judgment and said that anything that separates actually discriminates on the basis of race and therefore offends the 14th Amendment. So this what we have studied earlier. So now we are moving further to this right to vote under the United States Constitution. So I would request you to take down few basic notes under this right to vote under the United States Constitution. So please write down the heading right to vote under United States Constitution. So there are two topics. One, we will be talking about this right to vote, and we will be talking about this interstate travel, right to interstate travel in the United States. So first topic is this right to vote under the United States Constitution. So please write down certain amendments. Write down the 15th Amendment. Further write down the 19th Amendment, 26th Amendment, 24th Amendment, and this Equal Protection Clause under 14th Amendment. So these are the certain provisions that provides or that contains provisions relating to right to vote. So this includes 15th Amendment, 19th Amendment, 26th, 24th, and this 14th Amendment. That means this Equal Protection Clause. So इसमें आप लोग देखेंगे, मैं बहुत आपको डिटेल में नहीं लिख पा रहा हूँ, बस आपको दिखा रहा हूँ कि कहाँ पे आपको राइट टू वोट दिखता है. तो प्लीज हैव अ लुक एट दिस 15th Amendment, right? So I am reading the section 1 of this 15th Amendment. आप लोग you can access these slides from the Google Drive. So please do not note down these amendments like I won't dictate you at the present point of time. आप लोग सीधा अपनी नोटबुक में एक रेफरेंस के लिए लिख लीजिए. So we are talking about this 15th Amendment. So 15th Amendment, write down the right of citizens. Please wait for a minute. We are going with this 15th Amendment. What it says, the right of citizen of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. That means the slavery, right? So please take a kind note of it, that this 15th Amendment prohibits. So just take down this race, prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or previous condition of servitude in relation to right to vote. In relation to right to vote. So 15th Amendment is of extreme paramount importance to us. So please note it down. Now we were talking about this 19th Amendment that again is of extreme considerate importance to us. This 19th Amendment talks about the sexual equality. It says that nobody right to vote shall be denied on account of sex. So please write down this 19th Amendment, that the right to vote shall not be denied on account of sex. So this was in fact added around year 1920 in the United States. So in the 1920, you see the women actually got this right to vote in the United States Constitution. So this 19th Amendment, it says that your right to vote shall not be abridged on account of sex. Now moving ahead, we will be discussing this 26th Amendment. So please write down this 26th Amendment. It actually talks about no, your right could not be abridged merely on account of your age, and it provides the age of 18 as an age of vote. right? So this says, I'm reading the section 1. The right of citizens of the United States, please do not write it wholly. The right of citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of age. So every person who is above 18 is eligible to vote, and his right to vote cannot be curtailed by the state, either by the United States or by the state governments. So please take a kind note of it that 26th Amendment actually talks about age. All right. So please write down the age. So this was about the 26th Amendment. Now moving ahead, we are going with this 24th Amendment. So 24th Amendment again is an important amendment. And in fact, if you will look, we will look at some of the case laws wherein it talks about that why right to vote is of such paramount importance, and there are judgments of the Supreme Court on the same terms, on the same conditions as have been laid down in the 24th Amendment. So 24th Amendment, I am merely reading it, I am giving it a superficial reading for your convenience. So 24th Amendment में क्या लिखा है? The right of citizen of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors for president or vice president, or for senator or representative in Congress shall not be abridged or denied by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. So the important thing herein is that your right to vote, please note down, take down this short note, that right to vote shall not be abridged by reason of failure. Right to vote shall not be abridged by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other taxes. By reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. So this is important. It says, for example, there were many laws, many state laws that actually banned, that actually prohibited, that excluded an individual from exercising his right to vote if his taxes were not paid, right? So this have been a constitutional safeguard. This has been provided under this 24th Amendment that any citizen, even if he has failed to pay any poll tax or other tax, his right to vote cannot be taken away from him. So that's a very important right. So 24th Amendment, this was 24th Amendment. Now moving ahead. So we have this first case law. Please write down this first case law. This is a case of year 1996. So write down the year. Harper versus Virginia Board of Elections. Harper versus Virginia Board of Elections. So very simple, like what we have talked about the 24th Amendment. So the facts are very simple. So there was a law in Virginia that required people to pay a certain kind of tax in order to vote. And the Supreme Court applied the strict scrutiny, saying because right to vote is so fundamental that its curtailment would attract the application of strict scrutiny by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court held such law as unconstitutional. So please take a kind note of it, that law that required, please take a note, law that required people to pay, poll tax have been held unconstitutional, have been held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Have been held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. So this was the dictum of Harper versus Virginia Board of Elections, a case of year 1996. So very simple. The state of Virginia, it provided it by making a law, said that a citizen, in order to vote, must pay a certain kind of tax, what is known as this poll tax. Only thereafter they would be eligible to vote. But the court said that right to vote in any democracy is so fundamental and so important that it must not be burdened by any such, manners or by any such taxes, and held that such law is unconstitutional. So whenever your right to vote is burdened whenever your right to vote is burdened, it would always face strict scrutiny. Please take a kind note of it, that whenever your right to vote is burdened, it would face strict scrutiny. Because right to vote is so fundamental in any democracy. So इसे आप कहीं भी एक छोटा सा लिख लीजिए. Now we are moving ahead to the next case. This is Crawford, right on the next case. Crawford versus Marion County election. This is a case of year 2008. So please note down the title of the case. Crawford versus Marion County election. This is a case of year 2008. So very simple case. What it said, that citizens have a right to vote. But this right is fundamental, obviously very fundamental to the democracy, but it must not be unnecessarily burdened like we have seen in the previous case. That it should not be unnecessarily burdened. But it could be burdened to maintain the integrity of the election. For example, if I am going to vote and if somebody asks me to come up with my identification card or voter ID card, the same law, the same action has been held as constitutional. देखिए चुनाव में इलेक्शन का फेयरनेस भी उतना ही जरूरी है जितना आपका राइट टू वोट, बिकॉज योर राइट टू वोट वुड मेक नो सेंस अगर इलेक्शंस फेयर नहीं है. तो कोर्ट ने कहा कि अगर ऐसा मीन्स जिससे इलेक्शन की इंटीग्रिटी को बचाया जा रहा है, जिससे इलेक्शन में करप्ट प्रैक्टिसेस ना हो, उन चीजों को बचाया जा रहा है, तो ऐसे प्रैक्टिसेस दे आर नॉट अनड्यू बर्डन ऑन योर राइट टू वोट. आई थिंक दे आर फेलिसिटेटिंग योर राइट टू वोट. तो इसी चीज को कोर्ट ने बहुत अच्छे से समझाया. तो आप इसी पे 2 लाइनें लिख लीजिए. दैट इंडियाना लॉ दैट रिक्वायर्ड all residents to present a photo identification was challenged and held constitutional as benefits of preventing fraud outweighed the burden with regard to right to vote. So this right to vote is a very important right, but fairness of the election is also important. Otherwise आपके right to vote का कोई meaning नहीं रहेगा. तो ऐसा law जो आपको कहता है कि that you are required to bring some photo ID card before voting is constitutional, is not an undue burden. ऐसा law ठीक है. तो ये 2 केसेस हमने बात की. We talked about the amendments, right? So we are going, if for your kind convenience, मैं आपको एक बार दोबारा से वो दिखा देता हूँ. We talked about the 15th amendment that actually talks about race, color or slavery या previous condition of servitude. ऐसा कुछ भी हो, that is no ground to exclude you from right to vote. Then we talked about this 19th amendment. So 19th amendment feministic jurisprudence के हिसाब से भी important है, because it says it actually conferred this right to vote on women. It said that on account of sex, आपका कोई भी आपसे this right to vote cannot be taken away. This 19th amendment, 1921 की बात है. Now this 26th amendment, this talked about age, that every citizen who is above 18 is eligible to vote and his right cannot be curtailed. Then we talked about 24th amendment कि भले ही कोई tax due हो, कुछ भी हो, आप you cannot exclude someone from exercising his right to vote. और इसी पे हमने 2 केस लॉज देखी. पहला केस लॉ इज वेरी सिंपल, जो कहता है कि अगर आप किसी से भी कोई पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ टैक्स बोलते हैं भरने के लिए, वोट करने के लिए, ऐसा लॉ कंप्लीटली अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है. और राइट टू वोट में कोर्ट हमेशा स्ट्रिक्ट स्क्रूटनी यूज करेगा. प्लीज मेक श्योर. उसके अलावा जो दूसरा केस है वो बहुत सिंपल है कि आपका राइट टू जो वोट है वो एक इंपॉर्टेंट राइट है, एक फंडामेंटल राइट है, बट उसे बर्डन किया जा सकता है ना. बर्डन किस लिए किया जा सकता है? उसके अगर एक लार्जर इंटरेस्ट में. अदरवाइज हम अगर इलेक्शंस में इम्पार्शियलिटी ना हो, इलेक्शंस में फेयरनेस ना हो, इलेक्शंस में अगर एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी ना हो, अकाउंटेबिलिटी ना हो, तो फिर इलेक्शंस का आपके राइट टू वोट का कोई मतलब ही नहीं बचेगा. So we are making your right, more sharpened, more edged. तो इसी वजह से कोर्ट ने कहा कि अगर ऐसा कोई लॉ जो आपसे कहता है अपना फोटो आईडी लेके आइए, that is not violative of constitution, that is not an undue burden on your right to vote. So यहाँ तक आप में से किसी को कोई इशू हो तो the same would be asked by querying the chat box. So लास्ट में आप एक चीज लिख लीजिए मेरे कहने से, आप इसी के इंडियन काउंटर पार्ट में लिख लीजिए. इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में आपको मिलेगा आर्टिकल 325 एंड आर्टिकल 326. आर्टिकल 325 एंड आर्टिकल 326. और कभी कभी ये क्वेश्चन भी पूछा जाता है दैट वेदर दिस राइट टू वोट इन इंडिया इज अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट और इज अ स्टैट्यूटरी राइट, है ना. सो आई एम नॉट गोइंग इनटू दिस डिबेट, तो आई थिंक आई वुड लीव इट ओपन टू योर जजमेंट. मैंने आपको आर्टिकल्स बता दिया, आर्टिकल 325, 326. और सिमिलरली आप एक और लिख लीजिए, सेक्शन 62 ऑफ आरपीए एक्ट 1951, दिस रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल एक्ट 1951. असल में सेक्शन 62 वो सेक्शन है जहां पे एक्सप्लिसिटली ये दिखता है दैट यू हैव दिस राइट टू वोट. So right to vote appears in this section 62 of RP Act 1951. तो ये दोनों तीनों आप चीज लिख लीजिए, ये इंडियन पर्सपेक्टिव में है ना. और ये जो ऊपर वाली जो लाइन है ये बहुत ही नॉर्मल सी लाइन है, इसे मैं फिर भी एक बार आपके लिए पढ़ देता हूँ. तो वोटिंग इज अ फंडामेंटल राइट. इट डज नॉट मीन दैट इट इज फ्री फ्रॉम ऑल बर्डन्स एंड एनी लॉ डिजाइन्ड टू प्रिवेंट फ्रॉड or to protect integrity of electoral system could be allowed. तो आई थिंक जो हमने प्रीवियस स्लाइड पे डिस्कशन किया था उसी को यहाँ पे समराइज करके लिखा हुआ है कि आपका फंडामेंटल राइट तो है, लेकिन इसे बर्डन किया जा सकता है कहां तक, जहां तक ये सिस्टम को अकाउंटेबल बनाता हो, सिस्टम को फ्रॉड से प्रिवेंट करता हो, सिस्टम की इंटीग्रिटी को मेंटेन करता है, वहां तक आपके राइट टू वोट को बर्डन किया जा सकता है. देन वी हैव सीन द इंडियन काउंटर पार्ट एज वेल कि इंडिया में राइट टू वोट कहां पे आपको देखने को मिलता है. और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बहुत सारे अपने डिक्टम्स में इट हैज सीन लाइक इट हैड come out with this idea of nota and all that. So that's again an example of judicial activism in India. So we're not going much into detail into the Indian part. अब जो सेकंड पार्ट है, जो सेकंड टॉपिक है मेरा यहाँ पे डिस्कशन करने का, उसको आप लिख लीजिए राइट टू इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल. राइट टू इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल. हम 5:40 तक रैप कर देंगे क्लास को, 5-7 मिनट और करके 1-2 केस लॉस एंड देन वी वुड रैप द क्लास फॉर टुडे. राइट टू इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल और ब्रैकेट में लिख लीजिए नॉट फॉरेन ट्रैवल. नॉट फॉरेन ट्रैवल. सो दिस इज ओनली इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल, नॉट फॉरेन ट्रैवल. मेक श्योर इट इज इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल, नॉट फॉरेन ट्रैवल, है ना. अब देखिए कहीं पे भी कोई भी स्पेशली यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में स्टेट को ऑटोनॉमी बहुत ज्यादा है ना. सो स्टेट्स हैव very much autonomy if we compare it to India. So their federal structures appears very strong, right, in the United States. अब फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग है तो कभी कभी क्या होता है, when people travel from one state to another, they are subjected to lot many burdens. For example, there's a law that says that excludes the migrants from the social welfare benefits. Suppose कोई माइग्रेंट आता है किसी एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में, तो जहां पे वो आके सेटल हो रहा है वो स्टेट उसको कुछ सोसाइटल बेनिफिट से, कुछ सोशल वेलफेयर बेनिफिट से एक्सक्लूड कर देता है, स्कीम से बाहर कर दिया, है ना. सो द कोर्ट हैज हेल्ड ऑल सच प्रैक्टिसेस और ऑल सच लॉज दे आर अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल because the citizen has a right to travel in his own country. He has a right to interstate travel. और मैंने आपको इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल पे आई थिंक आई रिमेंबर डे 1 पे जब डिस्कशन कर रहे थे तो इंडिया के फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में वी टॉक्ड अबाउट कि सदर्न अभी कोविड के टाइम में साउथ इंडिया में 2 सदर्न स्टेट्स लड़ रहे थे कि हम एक दूसरे के बॉर्डर बंद कर दिए एंड द हाई कोर्ट हैव हेल्ड हाई कोर्ट में हियरिंग चली और हाई कोर्ट ने उस जो बैरिकेडिंग थी उसे बैरिकेडिंग को रिमूव कराया, उसके लिए यूनियन को डायरेक्शन दिया, यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया को. आई डोंट नो वेदर दैट केस वेंट टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट और नॉट, So we had such interesting cases as well, जो कहीं ना कहीं बहुत डायरेक्टली हमारे फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर को इम्पैक्ट करते हैं, है ना? तो हमारे यहाँ पे वी हैव दिस कांसेप्ट ऑफ सिंगल सिटीजनशिप, वहाँ पे डुअल सिटीजनशिप है, so we are not going much into it. बस एक या दो केस लॉ से समझ लेते हैं कैसे इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल का they have a right. So आप एक केस लिख लीजिए, this Edwards versus California 1941. Edwards versus California, और सिंपल लिख लीजिए, कोर्ट सेड फंडामेंटल राइट है टू इंटरस्टेट ट्रैवल. That right to interstate travel is a fundamental right. Right to interstate travel is a fundamental right. Edwards versus California 1941 का case है Supreme Court, United States. So that's the first thing. Now write down this next case. This is a case of year 1969. Shapiro versus Thompson, right? और यहाँ पे एक पेनिसिलिविया का लॉ है जो कहता है कि किसी को सोशल वेलफेयर बेनिफिट्स तब मिलेंगे तब तक वो इस पेनिसिलिविया स्टेट में कम से कम 1 साल रह चुका. तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ऐसे लॉज जो ड्यूरेशनल रेजिडेंसी रिक्वायरमेंट है, कहते हैं कि आप इतना टाइम रुकिए, 1 साल रुकिए, 2 साल रुकिए, सो ऐसे सारे लॉज दे हैव बीन हेल्ड एज अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल. They have been declared as unconstitutional. So write it down, write down the title of the case, and just write a simple thing that durational residency requirements have been held unconstitutional. Have been held unconstitutional. और ड्यूरेशनल रेसिडेंसी रिक्वायरमेंट आप समझ जाइए कि वहां पे रिक्वायरमेंट है किसकी, एक पर्टिकुलर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम के लिए आप इस स्टेट में रहिए, तब जाके आपको कोई बेनिफिट मिलेगा. फॉर एग्जांपल अभी यूपी गवर्नमेंट ने एक नोटिफिकेशन इश्यू किया था कि हम जो वैक्सीन है वो केवल यूपी रेसिडेंट्स को लगवाएंगे. तो उससे बड़ी कंट्रोवर्सी राइज हुई और बाद में यूपी गवर्नमेंट ने अपने क्लैरिफिकेशन उस पे इशू किया दैट भी हमारा कोई ऐसा इंटेंशन नहीं था या नहीं, वी मेड इट ओपन टू ऑल. बिकॉज हमारा फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर बड़ा डिफरेंट तरीके का, वी आर मोर ऑफ अ क्वासी फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर, बट इनफैक्ट एनी सच रिक्वायरमेंट्स कि हम पहले अपने स्टेट वाले को वैक्सीनेट करेंगे, उसके बाद किसी बाहर वाले को, किसी माइग्रेंट को तब हम वैक्सीनेट करेंगे. सो कोर्ट ने कहा नो. कोर्ट ने नहीं कहा, मतलब उस दैट वाज वाइडली क्रिटिसाइज्ड. सो कोर्ट जो गवर्नमेंट है उसने उसको खुद रेक्टिफाई किया, है ना. तो सिमिलरली हमें यहाँ पे हमने देख लिया, 2 केस लॉस देख लिए. आप तीसरी चीज एक सिंपल सा एक छोटा सा केस लॉ आप लोग लिख लीजिए. This name of this case law. This is a case of year 1973, San Antonio Board of Education versus Rodriguez. So this is a case wherein the Supreme Court has held that there is no right to education under 14th Amendment in the United States Constitution. There is no right to education under 14th Amendment under the United States Constitution. There is no right to education under 14th Amendment under the United States Constitution. और इंडियन काउंटर पार्ट में आप लिख लीजिए मोहिनी जैन और उन्नी कृष्णन. तो ये 2 केसेस हैं. I am typing them in chat box as well. One is this Unni Krishnan and another one is this Mohini Jain. ठीक है, ऐसे तो आपको TMPI में भी मिल जाएगा कि राइट टू एजुकेशन. इंडिया में द कोर्ट हैज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड दिस राइट टू एजुकेशन, प्राइमरी एजुकेशन इज अ पार्ट ऑफ ए फंडामेंटल राइट. इनफैक्ट आर्टिकल 21 कैपिटल ए को भी आप देख लीजिए, RTE एक्ट देख लीजिए. तो इनकी कोजॉइंट रीडिंग से आपको ऐसा लगता है कि इंडिया में यू हैव द राइट टू एजुकेशन, राइट. So I have dropped these messages in the chat box. So आप ये सब लिख लीजिए इंडियन काउंटर पार्ट में. And you have this उन्नी कृष्णन जजमेंट, मोहिनी जैन का जजमेंट है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का, आर्टिकल 21 कैपिटल ए, RTE एक्ट 2009. So this I think today this was the concluding lecture of our, like this is the concluding lecture for today. उसके अलावा now we gonna start the test So test में will simply drop the test this link in the chat box. So this test is very simple, है ना. यहाँ तक अगर किसी की कोई क्वेरी हो या किसी का कोई डाउट हो या किसी को कुछ बोलना हो, because this is the concluding class, so they could simply share their thoughts, like what they feel, what they felt, या फिर उन्हें कुछ भी बोला, so feel free, right? In addition to that, मैं आपको टेस्ट के बारे में बताना चाहता हूँ कि ये टेस्ट एक सिंपल 15 मार्क्स का टेस्ट है, जिसमें से आपको 6 मार्क्स लाने हैं, right? 40%. So you just need to obtain 6 marks in order to get pass and eligible for this, to receive the certificate. So ये टेस्ट में ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चंस भी हैं, सब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चंस भी हैं. सब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चंस जो हैं, डिस्क्रिप्टिव क्वेश्चंस जो हैं, प्लीज डू नॉट एक्सीड 100 वर्ड्स. और आप बहुत क्रिस्प लिखिए, केस लॉज के साथ लिखिए, पॉइंट वाइज लिखिए, पैरा आप अवॉइड करिए पैराज लिखने में, बिकॉज़ 100 वर्ड्स है. सो बी वेरी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड. In addition to that, MCQ जो questions हैं, please read them very carefully, right? So I request if someone is here from Team Kanoon Sangrah, they may simply drop it in the chat box. और आप लोगों का टेस्ट का ड्यूरेशन 30 मिनट्स है. So thank you Team Kanoon Sangrah. और आज आपको फीडबैक फॉर्म भरने की जरूरत नहीं है, because we have integrated the feedback form with this link only. So all the best. Please go ahead with it. And thank you so much. It was really pleasure to interact with you guys, and it was really a pleasure. In fact, मैं टीम कानून संग्रह को बहुत thankful हूँ, and मेरी टीम से मनीष, नेहा, right? So there are n number of people, those who actually helped us. So thank you so much. So this link is in the chat box. So please आप लोग अपने chat box से अपना टेस्ट करें. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.